so badly brainwashed us as slavery. I can't trust Americans. And I'm speaking the truth, cause ain't no anti-Samaritan. Creator, and I'm itching for justice. He who leads the captivity, well, I know. And they black, they want me. What? But I'm with the Lord, and guess what? I got only for you a demon, you're lurking and sinking. These Romans, they hunters, they murky. My brother, they're the police, and that's what the capital did. I piss on their graves, and that's what the capital did. Monks, demons, lurking, creep. Look up, back up, they under the same agenda. Say what they want, but sticking their veins, I'll see nothing different. They under protocol, and ain't nothing changed. Their main purpose is what? To keep my niggas in chains. You can talk to them, I know the secrets. Take up for them, that's you shrinking. So they doing their job, they trying to clean up the streets. Say we the ones on drug and looking absurd and beastly. Propaganda, cause who brought it? And dropped all the tools of evil off and ignored it. They destroyed us. Fucking oppressed us. Trying to ease the pain, but they the works of Satan. Yeah. You a demon. You lurking and sinking. These Romans, they hunters. They murky. They're the police, and that's what the capital did. I pissed on their graves, and that's what the capital did. Monks, demons, lurking, creep. All right, Shalom Israel. We the ISUPK, start out of 1 West, 125th Street, Harlem, New York, under Commander General Yohana. And since 1969, we've been teaching so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans the truth according to the Bible. All right. St. Louis, we are located at 5261 Delmar Boulevard, Suite A, at 63108. All right. All right. You know what I'm saying? All right. Go over announcements real quick. All right. Coming up July 21st through the 24th, we have the Midwest Fire Weekend in Chicago, Illinois. Right. And if you so-called Black, Hispanic, and Native American, you know what I mean, you definitely don't want to miss that cookout, right? Let's see here. Let me get the itinerary, right? Because we know on the 24th we having the Black and Brown Black and Brown Unity Cookout, right? And then on the 21st, Salakia. First on the 21st, we have a scripture breakdown with General Muhammad from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m., right? Followed by Cross the Line Radio. All right, we have in camp on the 22nd, right, from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. Commander General Yohana will be speaking at 3 p.m. All right. After that, we having we'll be having the lecture before Columbus came, right, from 6 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. Right, and on the 23rd, we'll be at the Bantu Festival, right? If you need any more information about the Fire Weekend, call 708-299-5821. All right. So every third Friday here in the city of St. Louis, Commander General Yohana, you know what I mean? He has the ISUPK food drive, right? That's from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. every third Friday of every month, right? And that's going to be at 5261 Delmar Boulevard, right outside on the corner of Delmar and Union. All right. But if you got any questions concerning the food drive,
Phone number for that is 314-696-8288. All right. All right, let's hop straight into the lesson, right? So, see that the title of the lesson tonight, right, is learn first, then lead, right? And that's an important thing because we, as so-called Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, right, we've been brought up, to lean on our own understanding, right, to figure it out on our own, um, and we take that and we use that when it comes to understanding the Bible, right? But that's not the way that that's not the way that it was intended. We weren't intended to just try to figure out what the scriptures mean on our own, right? We're supposed to go to men who actually know what the scriptures mean, right? And then in going to them, right? That's where we learn what they mean. That's how we learn, you know what I mean? Uh, 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 what the scriptures actually say, because Christianity has taught us basically we can just do whatever we feel like doing, right? Salaki, Christ did away with the law. He nailed it to the cross, right? All of those things come from not only your oppressor, but believing in what believing that whatever is going on in your own mind, right, is the right way. All right, let's go ahead and get to this first scripture, right? And the first scripture we gonna go to tonight is the book of Hebrews, the 5th chapter and the 12th verse, right? Because a lot of our people, we don't find out about this truth when we're young, right? We find out about this truth, you know what I'm saying, when we grown men, right? When we adults or grown women, right? So the book of Hebrews, chapter 5, verse 12 says, "For the time when ye ought to be teachers, ye have need that one teach you again, which be the first principles of the oracles of Yahweh, and are become such as have need of milk and not strong meat," right? So now let's go over this. Let's break this down, right? Let's get an understanding of what they were writing or what they meant by this, right? So it says, "For the time when ye ought to be teachers, ye have need that one teach you again," right? Well, you grown, right? You're a grown man as an Israelite. As an adult Israelite man, you should know the law, statutes, and commandments, right? It's a shame for us as a people that we don't even know our own culture. We don't understand what the Most High God requires of us, right? And that's what you're supposed to learn while you're growing up. That's what you're supposed to learn as a child, right? You're supposed to learn that you're supposed to carry yourself this way. You're supposed to do this. You're supposed to do that, right? But we're taught that we can do whatever we feel like doing, right? Oh, you can sleep with who you want to sleep with. You can be with who you want to be with. You can be whatever you want to be, right? You can do whatever you want to do, right? And that goes against the Most High God, right? Us doing whatever we feel, however we feel. You know what I'm saying? That's not what the Most High God ordained. That's not what the Most High God set up. That's not what the Most High God wants from His people, right? And this is only a requirement for the so-called Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, because the Most High God has commanded you to keep His. So that's why we can't worry about, you know what I mean, what anybody else is doing, what any other nations are out here doing. We have to keep the laws because the Most High God said He commanded you, right? Speaking to the nation of Israel, speaking to every Black, Hispanic, and Native American man, woman, and child. Salaki. All right, let's keep going. Again, which be the first principles of the oracles of God, and are become as such have need of milk. Right now, what that means, right? What that's talking about is, the oracles of God, the oracles of Yahweh, right? The oracles of the Most High, right? Those are the words of Yahweh. Those are what Yahweh said do and Yahweh said not to do, right? And that is what the law, statutes, and commandments are, right? It's Yahweh told Moses, speaking to the children of Israel, and say this, say that, do this, do that, don't do that, don't do this, right? Those are the laws that the Most High God came up with, and those are the words of the Most High God, right? And those are the first oracles of God, right? And that's the milk, right? That's the basics, right? Let's see, right? And and like any baby, right? Any newborn, right? You can't give them, as the scripture says, strong meat, right? It's something that their body just can't digest, right? You have to start off with the basics, right? You don't start learning anything at the advanced level, right? Whenever you start anything, you start at the beginning, right? You start at the bottom and then work your way up. Why? Because you don't understand. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? There's nothing wrong with having to admit that you don't understand, that you don't know yet, right? And we've been taught to have so much pride, have so much yeah, just basically pride, right? We too puffed up. We feel like no one can tell us anything. We feel like we can't be taught, right? But you know what I mean? You don't know how to actually understand these scriptures, right? Because until you come in here, all of us have been led astray. All of us has been taught wrong. All of us have been deceived by our enemy, right? And that's a system he set up. That's the society he set up, and not just here in Babylon, the USA, but all over the world, right? Our oppressor that is over us here is over the entire globe, right? In Job, it tells you that the earth has been given to the hands of the wicked. And Esau is the most wicked, right? Let's keep it. Was that it? Yeah. I'm going to drop that real quick. All right. All right, let's go get a little bit of confirmation on exactly what I was just saying, right? We're going to go to First Peter, the second chapter, and we're starting at the second verse, right? Because this is what you will learn, right, when you study under men above you, right? You don't just learn by yourself. You especially the basics and the fundamentals, right? No one learns the alphabet on their own, right? No one learns how to count on their own, right? You have to be taught, right? Yeah. Once you get up and get a firm basis and a firm grasp on society and reality and certain simple things, then you can start learning other things seemingly on your own, right? Or through experience, right? But that's because you already have a foundation. You already have a basis, right? All right. Again, that's we're going to First Peter chapter 2, verse 2. As newborn babes, desire the sincere milk of the word, that ye may grow thereby. Right. So you're supposed to be as a newborn baby, right? Because you did not learn what you were supposed to learn coming up, or you didn't learn what you were supposed to learn when you were an actual, in fact, newborn baby, right? So you have to go back to that again, right? Right. Christ himself said that, right? Christ said you had to be born again. Right? And this is them further breaking it down about exactly what that means, right? That means that you have to relearn what you did not learn. You have to go back and take the courses you skip because you're failing at the courses that you're in, right? Most of our people, you know what I'm saying, they want to stay in the New Testament. They want to stay in Paul's letters and things like that, but they haven't learned the foundation, right? You don't know what Paul knows, so you can't understand what he's saying in the context of how he says it, right? You don't. Paul was a doctorate of the law, right? He was not just some random guy, right? Paul studied at the feet of the lawgivers, right? He was, as he said, a Pharisee of Pharisees, right? But then, even with Paul, right, when he came into this truth, he had to learn again, right? He had to go to brothers and have brothers over him and teach him again. So what he's given in his letters, right, and the people who came after him give in their writings and communications. These are not letters for the common Israelite, right? These are letters for the leaders of the Israelites. These are letters for people who are going to have to instruct and show and teach principles to the rest of Israel, right? Like again, like I said, Paul was a doctor in the law, and what he taught was doctor's levels courses, right? Not everybody in a hospital has doctor's levels courses. Not everyone in the law office has doctorate level courses, right? Have learned things at a doctorate level, right? You have, let's say in the hospital, right, you have nurses, right? There are some, who get a doctorate in nursing. There's some that got an associate's, right? And there's some that got a bachelor's, right? There's some that have masters, right? And at each level, right, it's not saying, it's not looking down on those people who are working in these positions, but this is what your position is, and this is what it requires. You for your job, for the job you want to do, you don't need to a doctorate. But for the job that somebody else is doing, they need a doctorate, right? So then they would be the ones who would be referencing Paul's letters, right? And even he had to understand the same thing that Peter is saying right here, that you have to desire that milk, right? You got to understand and you have to desire that foundation, right? Because then is when you get to start advancing, right? You can't just go to Paul. Paul is not talking to you right now, right? Paul is not talking to you right now because you haven't understood Moses. You have to understand Moses before you can get to the prophet, right? As like the other prophets, right? After Moses, and then you have to understand each level as it goes up, right? Let's see here. Oh yeah, and as it says, it not just you have to learn it, right? But you have to have the desire to learn, right? You have to. It's not something that you just learn because you think that you need to, right? It's because it's something in you where you just have to. You can't not learn this. You can't. You can't. You can't get enough of it. It is your desire. It's what you want, and not just because it's something to do, right? All right, let's go to the book of Acts, right, to reinforce exactly what I just said. Book of Acts, the 8th chapter and the 27th verse, right? And it says, and he arose and went, and behold, a man of Ethiopia, an eunuch of great authority under Candace, the queen of the Ethiopians, who had the charge of all her treasure, and had come to Jerusalem for the worship. right? So first of all, we see that this man that they talking about, right? He is a high-ranking man, right? He has the authority over the entire finances of the Ethiopian kingdom, right? He's over all the he's over the treasury of the queen. He he runs the money for this entire nation, right? And it said he had come to Jerusalem for the worship. Now, why would he do that? It's because he was an Israelite. He was an Israelite who was in Ethiopia, right? And he had, especially when you get to certain levels, right? You get a certain amount of money, certain amount of authority, right? You can travel a bit, right? You can leave for a high holy day. You can leave to go and yeah, you can leave for a high holy day. You can leave for a vacation, right? Because you have this position, you have this authority, which means you generally have favor with that ruler, right? And as he was going, it's like, and what he decided to do was to go to Jerusalem to worship. Why? Because this man was an Israelite and he was righteous, right? He was coming. He knew where he had to be at, right? To worship the Most High God, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, right? And that's why he went to Jerusalem. All right, we'll keep going. Verse 28 was returning and sitting in his chariot. Read Esaias the prophet. Right, so he went back and he said he got in his chariot, which again tells you how wealthy this man was. It wasn't he got on his horse. It wasn't he went with it. He got on his camel. He had a chariot, right? He was just this man was he was there. He showed up, but he showed up in style, right? He got money, right? He's not just some peasant, right? He has high authority in the kingdom that he's in, right? And so he went to his chariot and he was reading Isaiah the prophet, right? Why? Because he's an Israelite. And he's a scattered Israelite, right? And he was reading about his people. He was reading the law, statutes, commandments. He was reading about the prophecies about what would happen to his people. He was interested in his own, right? Verse 29. Then the Spirit said unto Philip, go near and join thyself unto this chariot. Verse 30. And Philip ran thither to him, and he heard him read the prophet Esaias, and said, thou understandest what thou readest? So Philip, a disciple of Yahushua, right? He heard him reading Isaiah, right? The Most High told him, go, hey, go. The Spirit, it's like the Spirit of the Most High. You know what I mean? He told him, go over there. Go over with that man at his chariot, right? And then he asked him, do you understand what you're reading? Do you get that? I hear you reading it, right? So you're reading it out loud. So I hear you reading this, but do you understand what you're reading? All right, verse 31. And he said, how can I, except some man should guide me? And he desired Philip that he would come up and sit with him, right? So this man understood, even though he was wealthy, right? Even though he was a very wise and intelligent and a prudent man, because again, he was over the treasure of an entire nation, right? He still understood, listen, I can't understand this unless I'm guided by a man who understands this, right? I can't just do this on my own. Why? Because he was an intelligent man again. And then he desired seeing and recognizing in Philip a man that could understand it, a man that could break that down to him what he was reading, right? Because again, it is wiser to ask questions when you don't know than to keep your mouth shut or act like you do. Right? Let me see. Yeah. Again, it's much wiser to keep your preconceived notions, right, in check. Right? You may have a thought on how something goes, you may have a thought on what something means, but unless you've learned it from a man who actually knows what he's talking about, right, then that's not something that you need to really hold to, right? You need to ask. Make sure that what the way you think it is or what you think is correct, because you may be wrong. You may be going on your own understanding. You may not even have any clue what you're talking about. So it's better to ask than to not, right? All right, let's keep going. All right. We go into let's see if that's what I want real quick. Yeah. All right, we're going to the book of Ecclesiasticus, chapter 8, verse 8, right? Because again, right, just like the eunuch, right? He went to a man that was greater than him. He went to a man that was wiser than him, right? And he put himself under subjection to that instruction, right? Under subjection to that teaching, right? So again, we go into the book of Ecclesiasticus, chapter 8, verse 8. And it reads, despise not the discourse of the wise, but acquaint thyself with their proverbs. For of them thou shalt learn instruction, and how to serve great men with ease. Right? So, right, and this is simply saying, look, when men who are above you, men who are wiser than you, men who are greater than you, right? And when they're having conversations, you know what I mean? Pay attention, right? Don't just, let these great men speak and teach and you not listen, right? You not sit there and take your notes. You not sit there and reconfigure what you had and what you thought was right, right? Because you know what I mean, you may think it's one way, but then you hear this man who you know is greater than you, right? Who you know actually understands these scriptures, and he says something different. Well, you got to throw what you was thinking out, right? You got to get rid of that, and you can't be too proud. It's like you can't be too proud that you don't get rid of a belief that you have, right? Because you look in these scriptures and you listen to that man and go back and look at these scriptures and listen, and what he's saying is exactly right, right? I mean, you can't be too proud to look at that and then actually follow that, right? Because that is the only way, you become a leader, right? That is how you become a leader, right? You become a leader because you listen to those and you've been led by those who are greater than you. And now, after that, right, you can lead, men who come after you, right? Men who will, at that point, right, be under you, right? But to be able to do that, right, you got to be led first, right? You have to learn first, right? And that's why, it's so important that we understand that what matters the most it's not the man, right? It's the doctrine that that man is teaching, right? It is what they are saying, what the Most High said, right? Is what they're saying, what Yahweh said. Is what they're saying, fall in line with the prophets, right? And are they teaching some new doctrine? Are they teaching some new gospel, right? Or have they changed up the way, or have they changed up what they teach, right? They used to believe in this and now they believe in that. You can't just, you have to make sure that the foundation that you're planting and the foundation that you starting to build is on something stable, right? It, and that's the issue with a lot of these that ends up happening with a lot of these fake Israelite groups, right? They're not stable, right? They've gone. Most of them go from one group to another group to another group to another group, right? And then all of a sudden now, after they've changed what they teach 4 or 5 times, now all of a sudden, that doctrine is correct. No, that's not it. That's not how that works, right? You have you have to be taught correctly. If you weren't taught correctly, right, then what you're doing doesn't mean anything because you don't have the correct foundation. You don't have a correct basis, right? All right, let's keep going. All right, so we're gonna go to. All right, we're gonna go to the book of Ecclesiasticus, right? Chapter 34, right? And starting at verse 9. All right. It says, a man that hath traveled knoweth many things, and he that hath experience will declare wisdom. Verse 10. He that hath no experience knoweth little, but he that hath traveled is full of prudence. Right? Verse 11. When I traveled, I saw many things, and I understand more than I can express. Right? So experience, right? Experience has value, right? Experience has weight. Experience has meaning, right? And as someone who does not know or has not lived and has not gone through what it actually is to follow the law, statutes, commandments, right? To keep God's commandments, right? You don't understand what that is. You have to get that experience, and the best way to get it is to learn from those who have it, right? You have to learn from someone, right? So that is the only way to make your your experience efficient, right? And what do I mean by that, right? So, of course, we all understand and we know about regeneration, right? About coming back into this earth, right? But while you in this earth right now, right, it would behoove you, right? It would be in your best interest, right, to get it right this time, right? And you don't have forever to get it right this time, right? So learning from the experience of people who came before you is a way to get experience that does not cost you the years that it took them to get it, right? It doesn't cost you the pain and the suffering that it took them to get that, right? They had to suffer for it. You just got to listen, right? You just have to um, sit down, listen, and take heed to the lessons and the experience that others are wasted time and had to sacrifice just to be able to give you that experience, right? There's so many other things they could have done, but but then you would not have that experience, right? You then you would suffer, right? There are men who have come before us who struggle, so we don't have to struggle in that way, right? And that's the whole point of even doing something like going to camp, right? Because not everybody in the school, you know what I'm saying, got in the school because of camp, right? Not everybody in the school, you know what I mean, got in the school because they heard somebody on the street corner and went uh and was like, you know what, they right, and then changed their life. That's not how it happened for everybody in here, right? Some people, some of us, right? They had to we had to come in differently. We came in like some of us came in, you know what I mean, because we heard a debate, right? It wasn't camp that got us; it was that debate, and we started researching, and then oh well, I mean, obviously he's telling the truth, and we listened more and more and more, and that's how we got into the truth, right? Some of us, you know what I mean, were brought in because you know of a program that the school had, right? And we looked and we saw Christian church ain't doing nothing. Black Lives Matter. They only there when the camera's around. But these brothers is always out here, always having food drives, having clothes drives. What's some of the other programs the school does? Having expungement programs. They always in the prisons, helping uplifting brothers and sisters and giving them their culture. Like they out here doing these things, and there's no cameras around most of the time, right? It's not, you know what I mean, something that gets broadcast everywhere all the time. But in your neighborhood, you see these brothers out here. That's how some people come into the school, right? And so all of us, we had different paths in, we had different ways in, right? And then we came to this truth, and you don't have to go through and walk down the path of each of struggle that each man had to go through to get in here, right? All you have to do is listen to those brothers who came in before you, who had the same struggle you did in different struggles, and learn how to deal with those issues. Sometimes the issues that you learn how to deal with aren't even for you, right? You learn how to deal with this issue, or you learn how to fight this demon, right? Because of somebody you gonna bring up, because of somebody you gonna bring in here, right? But you learn everything that they have, and like it. I've learned since I've been in here, even if whatever they talking about is not my experience or not something that I witnessed or went through, I take the counsel, I take the teaching, I take the learning, I take the lesson because it'll help my brother who is going through that, right? It'll help my sister who is having that same issue, right? It wasn't my issue, but if you are going to lead, right, then you have to understand your own experience is not the only experience, right? Your own quote unquote firsthand knowledge is not the only firsthand knowledge out there, right? We have to come to the men above us, right, to learn, because not only will they give you the truth of what the Bible is actually saying and what it actually means, but they'll give you how to apply it, right? How to actually make it real. How to, because in here we don't just learn the Bible, we learn how to live the Bible, right? You don't just learn how to teach it, right? You don't just learn how to, open it up, look at one scripture, right, and give a life story, which really has no point and no meaning, right? It's just, that's not what we teach in here, right? What we teach and what we learn in here is how to become the leaders and how to become the law-abiding citizens the Most High created us to be, right? Because that is exactly what we are, right? We are a lawful people, right? And let's not get it twisted. There is not one single so-called Black, Hispanic, or Native American that is a criminal, because of their own personal choices, right? Yeah, things may seem like their personal choice, but when you have been a slave, right, and you still haven't broken free from your slave master, you still following your slave master's culture, right? You still worshiping the way your slave master wants you to worship. You still dressing the way your slave master wants you to dress. You still think the way your slave master wants you to think. Then the then what you are is a product of your slave master, right? We thugs because that's what our slave masters want us to be. Because our brothers, especially in Jamaica, understand, you know what I mean, that those East Indians are oppressors to us, right? And they're the original, right? It comes from Thuggee. It is an entirely East Indian concept, right? That is their culture, being a thug, right? Being a gangster. That is the Italians' culture, right? You want to be these things because you have been conditioned to be this way. And the only way to break that conditioning is to come into the ISUPK and leave everything of this world behind in your mind, right? I'm not saying that, oh, you gotta, you know, walk out on your rent, you know what I mean? Walk out on your house, go live in the woods. I'm not saying that, because there's a lot of these fake Israelites that will tell you that, right? But that's not what that means. Leave this culture, leave this society by rejoining your own, coming back to the law, statutes, commandments of the Most High God, right? Doing what the Most High God told you to do as a so-called Black, Hispanic, and Native American, and sticking to your people, right? But to understand even how to do that, you have to be led, you have to be taught, right? And the ISUPK is the only place that teaches Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans actually how to serve their God, actually how to fight back against this oppression, right? You think getting guns are going to work? You got to go to them because they manufacture the guns. They got all of the bullets. I was listening on Clubhouse, and it was a brother. It was a brother that said something, and it's a fact that I knew, and I didn't realize that most people didn't understand this. But when you go to these gun stores and things like that, and they out of bullets, and you hear people complain about a bullet shortage, you thinking these people are talking about like they can't get 5 boxes of bullets. That's not what it is, right? That might be a shortage for you, right, on what you think. But your oppressor, he has pallets of bullets. That's what he means by gun shortage. I can't get my pallet of bullets this month. Right? They don't order like well, listen, they start using these weapons at the age of like, what is it? 7 or 8? Usually around then. And then about 12 or 13, they can purchase their own rifles, shotguns, long guns. They can purchase them on their own. And they shoot with them and they practice with them. You think that you are about to pick up guns and go against Esau, who was blessed with the sword. That's the only thing he knows how to do is kill. That is his only talent, is to kill and bring destruction and disease everywhere he goes. And you can't outlie the king of lies. You just can't. That's what they do. You can't out devil the devil. That just doesn't work. What you have to do as a so-called Black, Hispanic, and Native American man, woman, and child is what every person in the ISUPK has done, and that is join with your people, right? Come back to the law, statutes, commandments, right? Do what our God has told us to do, which violates no laws in any country, right? We not breaking man's laws, and we not breaking the laws of the Most High God. Right? But you get in these fake Israelite groups or these so-called Black liberation groups, or all these so-called Black and Hispanic activism groups, right? And what happens? Your leader shoots people in the foot. Yeah, they have rallies that had women out there getting injured, right? You actually are a gang and selling drugs, or going to strip clubs, right? Or prostituting our women, right? So some of them even teach you can go ahead and sleep with the other nations. You can be with them. That's not what the Most High God ever intended. That's not what the Most High God wants for his people. And that's why we still in this condition. Because of people in our community not learning how to submit and learning how to learn from men above them before they go out and lead. Right? They are leading our people, just like MLK said, into a burning building. Why? Because we have become too prideful, right? We've become too arrogant, right? We can't be told that we're wrong, right? So we haven't developed a community that's worth anything because we try to build it on nothing, right? We build it on whatever we personally think, how we feel. That's nothing. The law, statutes, and commandments are the only thing that we can build our community on. The only thing that we can use to raise up our nation out of this hell that we are in. Right? Now, again, like I said, I'm not just speaking, my own words. I'm not speaking my own thoughts, my own feelings, right? These are scriptures, right? Now, I'm going to read you what Christ said about, leadership, right? Let's start at the basics, right? Go to the book of Matthew, chapter 4, verse 19, right? Because a lot of people think in our community that you can do this because you don't need any man to teach you, right? You don't need to follow any man. You don't need to listen to anybody. The Most High God is just gonna talk to you and put it in your brain of what you're supposed to do. That's not how that works. Like these are all myths that have been created by our oppressor to keep us in our situation. That's not how this works. All right. Let's read what Christ says. The book of Matthew, chapter 4, verse 19. And he saith unto them, follow me, and I will make you fishers of men. Right. And I will make you fishers of men. So what is he doing? He's telling these men, right? Christ, who's a man, is telling these men, listen, follow me, and I will make you fishers of men. Right? That's a man. Those are men who are following a man who is greater than they are. That's the perfect example. That's one of the best examples, right? And it's straight from Christ, right? Let's see. All right, and we're gonna drop that. We're gonna hop straight over to First Corinthians, right? The 11th chapter and the first verse, right? This is Paul speaking, right? And it says, "Be ye followers of me, even as I am." It's like it, even as I also am of Hamashiach. Paul tell it. That's the first place Christians want to run to. It's the letters of Paul, the letters of Paul, the letters of Paul. Well, Paul told you that you just can't think of it. You just can't come up with this on your own. You have to follow a man as they follow Yahweh Shah Hamashiach. Right? This ain't just what comes off the top of your head. You've been deceived. You've been taught. Listen, you've been taught that and you believe that because that is what destroys you. That's what destroys your community. You think that what that mentality that you developed in the world is a mentality to uplift you and your people? If it was, it would have worked already. Our people have been fighting especially carnally, since we got on the boats. We rebelled. We fight. We form groups to organize against it, and we do what we think is best. But it's never working. It doesn't work because what it requires is us to follow the Most High. And to follow the Most High, we have to go to a man who knows what the Most High has told us to do. Who a priest, a prophet. We can't just come up and create our own system and what we want to do and how we want to do it. That's not how it works. The Most High God chooses the leader. And right now on this earth, Commanding General Yohanan is the head of the nation of Israel. He is the head of every Black, Hispanic, and so-called Black, Hispanic, and Native American on the planet Earth, whether you want him to be or not. The Most High God has chosen him. Period. You don't get to pick. You're too prideful. You believe you can choose who leads you. We did that before, and we got Saul. Right? We do that when we cry for. We want this person as a leader. The last time, you know what? Let's see who we pick when we say we want a leader. Right? Let's see what our people say when we want a leader. Right? Get that scripture. We're going to the book of John, chapter 9. right? And we go on to the it's like it. Go on John 19, right? And let's see where we'll start at. We go start at verse 12 to get context, and we hopping down to 15, right? Book of John, chapter 19, verse 12. And from thenceforth Pilate sought to release him, but the Jews cried out, saying, If thou let this man go, thou art not a friend of Caesar's. Whosoever maketh himself a king speaketh against Caesar. So we see that this is the Jews that are talking. The nation of Israel, who's supposed to be the ones who stuck with the Most High God, who were the keepers of the law, statutes, and commandments. Let's see who we pick when we get to pick a king, right? Like when we get to when we say who we want to rule us, when we decide who we want to rule us, right? Verse 15. But they cried out, away, away with him, crucify him. We're talking about Yahushua, right? Let's keep going. Let's keep going. Pilate saith unto them, Shall I crucify your king? Yahushua is the king of Israel, right? This is a heathen asking us as a people. You want me to kill your king, the man of your people, who your God has over you, who your power has decided to put you in his hand. You want us to kill him for you? What did we say as people, right? What did we say when we were asked about picking our leader, right? The chief priest answered, so this is our people said, away with him, away with him. The people said, away with him, away with him. Then the chief priest answered when asked the direct question. Our leaders, the people who lead our community, when asked the direct question, right? Your Jesse Jacksons, your TD Jakes, right? Your Creflo Dollars, right? What's that man's name? Right? Your so-called black pastors, MLK, right? Because all he wanted us to do was join with another nation, right? These are the leaders of our community, right? Pastor Daryl Scott, right? These people, leaders of our community, these people are figureheads and are considered priests of our community. What do they say, right? The chief priests, mind you, that's an S, right? That's not just one of them. That's not one priest. The head priests, right? Answered, we have no king but Caesar. We choose oppression over our Savior. That is what we do in this world, right? That is what we do when we're not in here following the law, statutes, commandments of the Most High God. We do that to this day outside of the ISUPK. Why? Because the Most High God has chosen Commander General Yohana to lead this nation. And the fact that you won't follow him says that you choose Caesar. You don't want Yahushua. You don't want the way and the leadership and the role, and it's like in the cast that Yahushua has set up. Yahushua set up a role, right? He set up order that will pass down after generation after generation and generation after generation. And it's landed right now on Commander General Yohana. But you didn't choose him as your leader. So you choose to follow Caesar. You choose to follow whoever you want to follow. Whoever feel good at the time. You like hoes. right? You like going to the strip club. You like throwing dollars. Yeah, ISUPK saying I can't do that. I'm gonna go ahead over to Sakari where we can go to the strip. We can go to the strip club. We can chill out at the strip club. And what they say, oh, dollars get thrown all the time. You know what? He right. Dollars get thrown all the time. We can hang out in there. We can kick it in there. I can be around this, even though that is a demon that a lot of our men battle with. A lot of our men go to war with that demon. But he said it's okay, so I can keep going. That is not of God. Commanding General Yohana is the leader that the Most High God chose for this nation. Right? And the ISUPK, up under Commander General Yohana, since 1969, has been fixing the black community. Why? Because we have submitted to leadership and learned from men above us. And that is how we get the authority to lead, by learning from those who are greater than us that lead us. That's how it works. It's just as simple as that, right? There's no magic. There's no hocus pocus. There's no nighttime visions and dreams that we have to be priests and prophets of the Most High God. No, you follow direction, follow order, do what you're supposed to do. I mean, of course, when you first get in here and you're newer in here, right, it's going to take time. You're going to have to develop, right? You're going to be shedding. You're going to be. Some people shed for years because, right, you don't know everything that's built up on you over the course of your entire life until the situation comes up, right? And since we are well past the time with that, I'm gonna say shalom, Israel.